In this one, I want to talk about the Vesper Radius and its most recent buff that it received. You all seem to love my chromatic fire build I did, and I truly appreciate you for all that support. So I figured I would continue that and maybe even turn this into a series, just going over some of the exotics, especially the ones that did get a buff. Now, Vesper Radius has never been the best thing in the game, but it definitely had some fun and crazy builds that you could make around it, and hopefully with the buff it received, you can now take it into things like in-game. So I want to go over everything you should know about this exotic and answer the question, is it good and will it overtake some other exotics you would normally run? Really quick though, I do want to mention that I am on the road to 40,000 subscribers. If you enjoy the content and find yourself coming back, consider subscribing and dropping a like. The support goes a long way and all of it is truly appreciated. So if we take a look at its new exotic trait, it is going to say Planetary Torrent. Rifts periodically release arc shockwaves. Sonic blows with these shockwaves create an arc explosion, while an arc subclass is equipped to shockwaves and subsequent explosions blind nearby targets. Rift energy recharges faster when you are surrounded by targets. So from the description, this exotic obviously does a lot. You can run this with any subclass, but it does have benefits if you do run it with arc. So first off, let's take a look at the shockwave it's going to make. As you see, if we put our rift down, it will indeed make that burst of energy, and this energy does in fact do arc damage. So this can play into anything that's based around your arc damage. On top of that, this will periodically release a shockwave every 5 seconds, so one rift can pretty much get out 3 shockwaves. This honestly doesn't have that much of an effect in my opinion. Maybe you could put it at a ad spawn area, lock down a door so nothing can come out, kind of like We're the Horde, but you're mainly only going to use it for that first initial pulse so you can kill enemies around you. But it is a nice little benefit if an enemy walks up while you're standing in a rift. Now the other benefit of this is now that the final blows with shockwaves will make an arc explosion. This is going to be really good for just getting some extra ad clear. As you see, if we get a kill with the shockwave, it will just make enemies explode. Explosions are always such a fun thing in Destiny, and obviously this is just going to make the exotic even more fun to use. Now even if you don't care about the shockwave part, it does also recharge your rift faster when enemies are near. So as you see here, the rift will recharge extremely fast when you're surrounded by enemies, and this will have a bunch of implications on any build that is based around your class ability. So just using the exotic alone, you're getting insanely fast class ability cooldown rate and the ability to kill some enemies that are around you that will also make them explode once you put that rift down. If you're taking a look at other subclasses, you have things like Brute Weaver, which can make threatlings when you use your class ability, Void Walker, which can make Child of the Old Gods. You have Frost Pulse on Shadebinder, which we'll get into a little bit later. And then for Arc, you even have things like Arc Soul. Soul is really the only one that doesn't have anything crazy with it. I think there currently is a bug where Phoenix Salve will proc it, but I'm not going to go over that too much because I imagine that will get nerfed or fixed soon. But now the topic of Arc, it does have other benefits if you do have an Arc subclass equipped. Like it said, those shockwaves will blind targets, and the explosions from the shockwave will also blind enemies. Blind is obviously extremely strong. You can take this into in-game content, pop your rift around enemies. It's going to do a bunch of damage, and then nothing will shoot you if things don't die. On top of that, if you do kill an enemy and then that enemy explodes, it will blind further enemies, and you kind of just have another cooldown being able to blind enemies. It's honestly really fun paired with things like Arc Soul, because Arc Soul will also reduce your rift cooldown when you're near allies. So that means near enemies and allies, you're just getting absurd cooldown rates. And with things like this season having the artifact perk Shock and Awe, those arc shockwaves can actually proc this and just blow everything up. So in the case of it adding a blinding effect, that's already going to make it even more popular in in-game content. The problem is that you do actually have to be up close to enemies to pop your rift, which can obviously be a little difficult if things are doing a lot of damage. So in that case, it is a little bit better for in-game content, but overall I think other stuff will still be used over this. Now with that being said, most of this gameplay is in the legendary campaign, and then in some of the Nightfall clips I'm actually at a -20 power, and it can still do some pretty good work. Now where things get flipped on its head, that is with the Frost Pulse aspect. So this will make your rift actually freeze enemies when you place it down, and obviously pairing that with the Arc Shockwave is going to be really good. As you see from this clip, you can freeze everything, then the Arc Shockwave goes off, shatters everything, and even if this Arc Shockwave will kill enemies that's not frozen, it will also cause that explosion, and it can do some crazy stuff. I do plan on having a updated build video out for this and explaining more in depth, so if you like to see that, be sure to stick around. So overall, I definitely think the buff to Vesper Radius is extremely nice. I don't foresee the extra pulse waves coming out of it being anything too crazy, but the fact that it now causes explosions, and if you are running arc, blinding enemies is going to be extremely strong. I think it definitely does have a spot in the end game, but I don't think you're going to run it over other stuff. However, getting that increased rift recharge rate is very nice, and this basically just turns your defensive class ability into an offensive class ability. So if that's something you're interested into and want to lean into it, I would highly recommend build crafting around this. It is super fun, and the buff they gave to it is nice if you are running arc, but if you're running the normal frost pulse build, nothing has changed too much other than the fact that you will occasionally make another burst out. But again, that really doesn't do a whole lot, but I guess it can come in handy from time to time. I still think this is one of the funnest and coolest looking exotics we've gotten. The exotic trait is extremely fun. It's also relatively good. It's just not game breaking like some other exotics are. But like I said, if you want to build around your class ability, definitely give this exotic a shot. But I think that's going to do it all for me. Let me know what you all think about the Vesper Radius. Have you been trying this out? Did you run any builds around it back in the day before the buff? The main buffs it did receive are really only noticeable if you are running the arc subclass, but having those extra explosions, even if you're not, are nice. But majority of the time you're going to be running this with frost pulse, and you don't get to take advantage of the buffs too much, but overall it's still really good. However, running up the line of a group of enemies and applying arc soul is also really fun. Anyways though, like I said, I do plan on making an updated build around this soon, so be sure to stick around. But thank you all so much for watching the video, and I hope you all have a great day. Peace.